I had to take a big sip. I was very thirsty. Hello, everyone. Hello. I'm excited. Oh, my phone fell asleep. Uh-oh. Hello. How is everyone doing? Are you doing good? I'm very nervous. I'm very excited, but I'm also very nervous because I've never done like an educational stream. Thank you for the headpads, Mason. I need to adjust those. I made myself. Headpads are always off kilter. I don't know what it is. It's just they're always off. You can never pat my head. It's always like my face or my ear. It's weird. But hello. So I've been hyping this up all week. I've been getting ready for it all week. And I this is something I thought about doing for a while because Clara mentioned it forever ago in her streams. Because she was like, I'm not the one to ask for advice about that. You'd be better off asking Sharp Spice. And I was like, you know what? I'll take you up on that. I'll do something like that. That sounds really fun. So today, as the stream title says, VTuber Design 101. And what that means is I'm going to teach you how to design a VTuber. Not make a VTuber, because that's very different. I'm going to teach you how to design a VTuber. Clara, hello. So there are plenty of ways to make a VTuber, you know, like, there's PNG tubers like I have here that I use V802 for, there's live 2D VTubers, there's, 3D VTubers, all this stuff. There's many ways to make a VTuber, but I feel like the one thing... Oh, 101? So, that's actually a college thing, Jimmy Biao. It's actually a college thing because in college, when you take, like, the first class of a thing, so, like, if you're taking a very first level drawing class, it's a 100 class. So, like, they have, like, standard drawing classes 101, that teaches you the very fundamentals. Comfy, hello! And if you took, like, class 102, that teaches you, like, the next step in drawing, or, like, 123 is, like, a more advanced version of drawing, but it's not quite the next tier. So it's like a level with tiers in it, you know? It's just different levels of advancement in a thing. And 101 is like the very bare, like the very base level of any class you can take. I actually took Astronomy 101, so I loved it. I really did. I always wanted that too until I got into college, and then it kind of clicked, and I was like, oh. But like I said, today we're learning how to design a VTuber. I'm not going to teach you how to make a VTuber model, because there's like a million tutorials for that, and a million different people could tell you how to make one. What I feel like a lot of people struggle with and don't really know how to go about is designing their VTuber model. Because like lots of people want to become a VTuber, but don't really know where to start or how to like figure out their look, so to speak. And so, like I said, Clara mentioned this, and the idea kind of stuck with me. And it's like, you know what? I really want to do that. I'm gonna do how to design a VTuber 101 kind of thing. Um, and so that's why we are here today. I'm rambling for a moment. I I'm very excited. I tried to make like a pretty relatively extensive, not super like mind-numbingly boring because I don't have the attention span for that. Kind of presentation, but I do have a presentation. As you can see, I have a PowerPoint I threw together for the past couple of days. And there's going to be a bunch of other VTubers mentioned on this PowerPoint, and I'll have the mods do this throughout. But just for now, so I can go ahead and show you, this is a list of all the VTubers we're going to mention in the PowerPoint today. Be sure to go check them out. They're all amazing. I don't know why all their names disappeared, but it's not just Comfy. That's weird. But those are all of their links. Some of them are friends, some of them are just VTubers I really, really like. But I'm very excited. So hopefully what we're going to do, this is going to be going for about 4 hours, possibly. It's a bit of a long haul. I am going to download the VOD for this, and I'm going to upload it to my YouTube. That way, if anybody wants to, they can come and revisit this later. And, I will also be putting the link to this, yeah, it's going to be 4 hours. That's because we have the presentation, and then afterwards I'm actually going to lead by example, and I'm going to redesign, Wiggle's VTuber model. Yeah, you are in here, Clara. Of course, of course. You and Comfy are both in here. I almost put Cozy, but I feel like she kind of goes along with Comfy, and I had limited space for images. Um, but yes, there's a lot of VTubers in this. Some you may have never heard of, some you've probably seen on TikTok. But we're talking about a lot of different things today. And I have a lot of stuff written on the PowerPoint, but I also digress a lot, so that's why I'm estimating about 4 hours. The hope is that we'll go that long and finish just in time to raid Cozy as she streams after work today. I think Cozy streams today, doesn't she? I think so. I hope so. If not, I'm gonna be embarrassed. But um, but yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to make sure I've got everything set up. I'm trying to remember if I downloaded Wiggle's image before this, but it's okay. We'll deal with the scuff later. But just a heads up. Actually, I should probably just go ahead and show you this. So, although the title is VTuber Design 101, I kind of broke it down into 7 steps. And they're not so much like hard steps that like you have to do this. It's more like the process that I use to design a character. It's basically like the kind of path that I follow to help figure out a character, and I find it tends to be far more understandable and far more helpful. Um, and we'll be talking, I've used my model as an example and a couple of other models that I've helped design and worked on as examples as well. If you don't know, I have actually, I made the concept design for Comfy's current model, and I just finished redesigning Feather of Fern's model as well. And so there's that. I made a 2D model for Cozy, so I'm kind of like, I'm not a master at this, but I kind of know what I'm doing, you know? I am going to school for animation, and I do want to get a degree in animation so I could specialize in storyboarding and character design, so this is kind of like my forte, you know? It's like Comfy talking about video editing. Speaking of which, Comfy's got a cool video editing stream going on tomorrow that you gotta check out, because Comfy's so smart and so helpful with video editing, and it's really great. And I've been babbling for too long, and I'm trying to make sure I've got everything set up. I'm nervous! I'm nervous, fellas! But, without further ado, welcome to Star's 7 Steps to Good VTuber Design. Thank you, Chippy Meow. Oh no! Did it freeze? Oh, it did! Oh no! Oops. Oops. Hold on. It's... Let's try this again. I hope it doesn't have to be like this. I will be very upset. There we go. Okay. And we start with scuff. I may have to reformat it a bit. Okay, so here are a few things to remember throughout this stream. Number 1, the word good for good design is subjective. Everyone has their own preferences, and although there's stuff that I'm basically teaching you stuff that will make your design more appealing, but not like perfect, because nothing's perfect. Everything has flaws. This is basically just like how to make your design more appealing to the eye and figure out a solid design to help you find your groundwork. So this is based on how I design characters and my own experience with art. This is in no way professional. This is just my own experience from like 10 years of drawing and millions of character designs. Everyone's taste is different. Please keep that in mind. I may say something that you don't really agree with. Lots of people really like super saturated colors. I don't. I tend to prefer a bit darker and pastel stuff. So that's just something to keep in mind. Yes, my cursor is a star. I'm surprised it works. Normally it defaults to the mouse. So everyone's taste is different, so please keep that in mind. If you don't agree with something I say, please remember this is all just my personal opinion and experience. Don't get too mad about it. This is a series of tips. It's not like a direct guideline like I mentioned before, and questions throughout this are entirely encouraged. I've actually cheapened the price of highlighted messages in chat to 10 channel points. That way anyone can just, you know, like highlight it in case I miss it, because I am trying to keep an eye on chat, but I might miss it because I'm rambling or presenting or drawing, so that's why I've got the highlight feature down so cheap, that way in case I miss one, you're not, like, out 300 points. But I've also got a sound alert, that way if I'm missing, like, huge chunks of chat, you guys can, like, be like, hey, people are asking you stuff. Pay attention. But please don't abuse that. That's the only sound redeem I've got, like, unlocked for channel points today, so that we can, like, focus on the presentation. But these are just things to remember. Questions are encouraged. Now, on to the 7 steps. I actually changed the name of all of them basically from the original idea, but I feel like this kind of flows a bit better. Step 1, conceptualize. Step 2, research. Step 3, stylize. Step 4, functionality. Step 5, marketing. Step 6, eye candy. And step 7, balance. These are all like, they're not like verbs, which I feel like they kind of should be when you have steps, but at the same time, these are just like names because they're kind of like ideas rather than actual like solid things. Yeah, it's called eye candy. Originally that step was called my eyes, they burn, but that was a bit long. So let's get started. Step 1, conceptualize. So this is like the very first thing you'll do when it comes to making a design. In order to design something, you have to kind of know what you want. So you can't just jump into it and be like, I'm gonna design a VTuber, and then like have no idea what you want. If you go in completely blind, you're not gonna know what to do, and then you're likely gonna wind up with something you don't like, don't vibe with, and don't really want. So the first step is kind of gathering a vague idea of what you want your VTuber aesthetic to be. And I say aesthetic, thank you for the head pat, Spade. Don't bonk me! That's so rude! I am gonna hydrate. My throat's very dry today. So I say aesthetic in air quotes because basically your VTuber design is gonna kind of dictate what the rest of your channel looks like. So, like, the best example to say is, like, if you have a pirate-themed VTuber, you're not gonna have, like, I don't know, pastel goth-themed overlays and such. It just won't mesh. So if you have, like, a pirate-themed VTuber, you're gonna have a pirate-themed overlay and stream setup, too. So basically, like your model is the foundation of your channel and how all of your stuff is gonna look from here on out. So this is kind of important, but at the same time, this isn't like a huge pressure. Like, don't let it get to you too much, because you can still have stuff that's slightly different, but still kind of in the same field, you know? If you're a pastel goth pirate Ava, then go for it. That actually sounds really cute. But it's like you're not gonna mesh two completely different aesthetics because then it won't look very good. So basically you're gonna typically, more often than not, you're gonna base your overlay on your model, and that's kind of how it usually works. I'm not saying that's what you have to do, but that's typically how it works. So in this step, a few things to keep in mind is, like I just said, you're gonna build your overlay and stuff. Yeah, Jimmy Meow. I'm actually a space imp. So, like I said, your background, your overlay, your entire channel look is going to be built on that. It's okay to combine ideas, but too many is just going to be too much and can lead to a disaster. Both visually and, like... who is texting me? Girl, now is not the time. I told you this is the one time of day I can't talk. My friend's gonna stop by and pick up paint from me to borrow, and she's texting me now, and it's like, you better not come while I'm streaming. I literally told you I can't at this time. Anyways, but it's okay to combine ideas, but too many can be a disaster. So, like, a prime example of this is, I think her name is Odessa? There is a VTuber who is a vampire and a pirate, and the two aesthetics actually blend together very well, but if she were to try and throw some other thing into the mix, like a vampire space pirate, that might end up being just a tad too much. So it's okay to combine 2 or even 3 aesthetics, but be careful not to go overboard because that can actually, like, just end in disaster. Hold on, I gotta text her. I'll have to find it and I'll link her in my Discord if I can. And another thing to keep in mind while you're getting through the concept phase is... Somebody has a shark model but wanted to use an ocean theme? Yeah, that fits perfectly. That fits absolutely perfectly. So sharks live in the ocean, you know? So that actually makes sense. We have Amasharku, who is like a shark mushroom VTuber, and it actually works very, very well in her design. And she has a beach kind of theme going on, and it looks very good. So you can combine different things, and you can combine different aesthetics. Yeah, her name is actually Vampire, I think. But... Yeah, truly, Jimmy Biao. But Be careful when combining things, because that can be a bit too much. You want to be able to combine ideas, but don't do too many. And so another thing that a lot of VTubers, especially new VTubers, are trying to do is come up with something unique and creative, because as a VTuber, of course, you want to stand out from the crowd. You don't want to look the same as every other VTuber. You want something that'll draw people to you. But in doing that, a lot of new VTubers can struggle trying to find something unique and interesting, and they'll be like, there's too many of this kind of VTuber model, so I can't do that, even though that's what they really want to do. So as an artist, as well as a character designer, let me tell you this, forget about that. Forget about being entirely unique and original. It's okay if you kind of fall in line with another VTuber or another concept or another idea that's been done 1,000 times before, because everything has been done before. Even if it hasn't, people will probably compare you to something that kind of looks like what you're doing. And a lot of people get so caught up in trying to be original that they just give up before they even start, because they're afraid of being like something else. I'm sorry, but when you're a content creator, an artist, or anything kind of like in the public eye, people are going to compare you to others. Don't let that get to you, because everybody compares everything. That's just how life is. Don't let it get to you. Just do what feels right, what you enjoy, and have fun. It's a very common thing, and I hate to see it because it just discourages so many people. No, I missed the last one. Hold up. No. Go back. Okay, there we go. Lastly, this model is in fact going to be the face of your channel. While it may be a character with lore and in the story and the representation, and it's kind of like an OC that you have, please make sure that it feels like you. Because even though it's the face of your channel and you may have a specific story and stuff in mind for it, it is going to be the face that also goes along with your voice. So you want it to feel comfortable for you. This is actually why Feather Fern had me redesign her models, because she enjoyed her model, but it didn't quite feel like her. It felt a bit too bright and bubbly for her and how she actually is, and she wanted something that aligned more with her actual personality. That is very important. So even if you have a specific character or a specific lore and a story in mind, make sure the model feels comfortable for you and your personality. That is huge. And a lot of VTubers can forget that, and they'll be too caught up trying to act like the character and forget to just be themselves. Because as fun as it is to have a character to present on stream, it's also, people are there to watch you because they enjoy you, your brand of comedy, and everything you do. So have your model represent that part of yourself as well. Okay, there we go. Now, a very, very common style of VTuber is animal VTubers. We've actually got a couple of those in the chat. Sharky Spade, like you said, a shark model. We've got Clara Dogford and Comfy Catboy. Animal VTubers are very common. There's nothing wrong with being an animal VTuber. There's a million cat boys and cat girls, plenty of dog girls and dog boys. Like, any animal under the sun, there's probably a VTuber of it, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with making another VTuber animal. People love them for a reason. People like animals. People like mashing animal features onto humanoid characters. It's just history and science. I don't know what to tell you. But there are also some more unique animal VTubers. There's even My Little Pony VTubers like Ninny. Ninny has a super cute My Little Pony inspired VTuber, and it's just stinking adorable. It's so cute. Yeah, we're all just furry smoochy. That's entirely correct. Because you see, a cute animal VTuber, and you're like, oh yeah, I vibe with that. But there's nothing wrong with being an animal VTuber, and just because you are doesn't mean you can't still get creative with it. Like Ninny, instead of being an anime-style VTuber with horse features, she's just a straight-up pony. It's really cute. So don't let that discourage you. If you want to be an animal VTuber, be an animal VTuber. It's awesome. I love them so much. Now, you may be asking, Star, you say conceptualize, but how do I come up with a concept? There's so many ways to come up with a concept. A very good method of this is what's called a mood board or aesthetic boards. So this is a cluster of 4 different aesthetic boards, and as you can see, it's just a cluster of pictures that all kind of have a similar vibe kind of stuck together. This is actually used a lot with me when I was doing a lot of design commissions in high school. And so, aesthetic mood boards like this can kind of help you figure out what kind of look or vibe you want to go with and you can build it from there. So even if you don't have a specific visual idea for like the eyes, the hair, the face, the outfit, any of that, you can still kind of at least get the aesthetic or the vibe you want to go for with these. Pinterest, although it is riddled with art theft and just a hot mess of a site, Pinterest does have a lot of aesthetic boards. You could scroll on there for forever. You can also scroll and find a lot of outfit mashed together. Like, a lot of people on Pinterest make outfit boards. That could help you figure out your VTuber model. But aesthetic boards is a huge way of doing that. And concepts can be all kinds of things. My model's first concept was just a weird hair idea I had, and a weird beanie that I saw on TikTok that I kind of mashed together into this drawing, and this is where my model first started. It was just a silly little idea that I sketched out in like 5 minutes, and I wound up really like vibing with it and really meshing with it, and I kind of stuck with it. So it could be any kind of thing. It could be inspiration, just something neat you saw that you want to play around with, that winds up becoming something more. All kinds of ways to come up with a concept. Another way is to take a look at yourself. Look at what you like, what you're interested in, your like focus, your passions. Everything about you can be turned into a VTuber. Because you as a VTuber, that's going to be what you talk about, what you're passionate about, what you have the most fun doing and creating with. So take a look at yourself. Like I said, a lot of VTubers will be so focused on making a character that they forget to include a bit of themselves in their model as well. So a good way to find concepts is to be like, what do you want yourself to look like? What do you want yourself to be like? How do you want to present yourself? Yeah, precisely. So take a look at yourself and just think about your passions, your interests, and that might help you find a little bit of inspiration there. So basically, conceptualizing is finding your inspiration and getting a very base foundation of what you want to go on. And it doesn't have to be anything specific, but it's just there to kind of give you a starting point. And that's all it is finding a starting point. And there's a lot of different ways that you can conceptualize a VTuber. So Sora, Tenacious Sora, one of my mods, Pika, if you could shout him out, please, is on the left. I'm actually currently working on redesigning his model for him so I can make a model and rig it for him. And this is a concept that I came up with, and I'm still kind of figuring out the hair, but this is basically the outfit that I decided to go with. So this is just a rough concept for Sora. As you can see, it's still like very loose. There's a lot of details that aren't figured out, but it's there and it's on paper. The model on the right was just a silly idea I had forever ago and finally sat down to draw. I remembered I was talking to my best friend about playing Minecraft when we were younger, because I never knew how to play Minecraft, and she would always get really excited and show me these little mushroom islands, and these cows made of mushrooms, called mushrooms. And so I was like, you know what, that would make a really, really cute VTuber design. So like, I just kind of whipped out a sketch of what I would think if a mushroom was a VTuber, and that's kind of how the design on the right happened. And if anybody actually like really wants this and wants to take this mushroom model as like their official VTuber design, just DM me. I'm not gonna do anything with it, and it's too cute to just let sit and rot. Like, you could have it. But it's just little silly ideas like that can become like a full-fledged design. And this moves us on to step 2, research. So this is where it gets a little, I almost didn't go with the word research because this is a little iffy. So as I said, some VTubers have a character for their model with lots of lore and want to have like a ton of lore and information about it. And that's fine, but please keep in mind that if you have a model that is based on like a real world thing, it would do you very, very well to do proper research. So like I have written here, depending on what you're basing your model in and how accurate you want it to be, this is where you do some level of research about what your model is based on. Like the example I wrote down, if you're making a Roman soldier inspired model, do research on Roman soldiers, their clothing and appearances, as well as the time period that they lived in. Because if you have stuff based on the real world, you want to be very considerate and kind of accurate because you don't want to misrepresent anything. So that's where I said it gets a little like careful. But also, doing a bit of research can help you figure out a bit more to involve in your model. So, like, if I were to do a model based on the solar system or based on a specific planet, then I might want to do a bit of research about that planet and then see, like, oh, it has this many moons. Maybe I could have the moons as earrings and stuff, you know? So that might actually help you figure out pieces of your model that you otherwise wouldn't consider. And then you have bits of your model based in fact, and those little elements in your model can also become fun Easter eggs that people might notice, because you never know what people know, and you never know what people find fascinating, and a lot of people would really like something like that. And if that kind of heavily researched model isn't really the vibe you're going for, I'd recommend just researching some visual elements. This is where I almost put images of a pit crew, but I decided not to. If you don't know, Pit Crew is a website where artists can make and upload their own like doll makers, and there's like hundreds upon thousands of them that you can go and just play around in. And a lot of people who even and this is helpful because even artists, or if you're not so artistically inclined, you can go to Pit Crew, play around with the models, and then you kind of figure out what look you really like. So then you can find out if you really like the characters, like when you do a Pit Crew with blue hair, or you really like the pink eyes, or you really like the cutesy outfit, or the short hair, or this and that. Um, so Pit Crews and doll makers can help you figure out a visual look, outfit, and feature-wise that you really, really like. And this also can help you research a couple of different art styles, and just it helps you figure out a bit more about the base. So, like I said, the concept is the base level of your VTuber model, and this is like adding the bare bones, like the bones of a house, like the shapes and everything where the rooms would go, but you haven't added the drywall or anything yet. It's the skeleton basically. And this is also a good chance for you to look at VTubers that you really like and want to emulate. So like I can't even think of a few off the top of my head. So, like, if you really like Clara's streams and you kind of are inspired by Clara as a VTuber, this is also your chance to, like, check out other VTubers like Clara and just see, like, what kind of VTuber you want to be, what kind of visuals you really like, what kind of streaming styles you really like, and that will also help you build the foundations of your model. So this is also just an excuse to watch VTubers and figure out what you like about those specific VTubers and how to emulate that in your own model. So it's just kind of your way of looking around, playing around, and doing your own version of that. Now, this is important to remember. When you're watching other VTubers and other art styles and playing with pit crews and everything, there is a very big difference from taking inspiration from something and straight up copying something. Okay? So a prime example of this is when I was working to design Comfy's 2.0 model. Him and I were talking about hair accessories, and one of the examples that I used was Tartcat. Now, Tartcat has a very different model now, but this is what their model looked like before. And as you can see, they had candy and stars in their hair. And Comfy and I were talking about that, and he kind of liked it, but we made it a little different because we used just stars, a moon, and a couple of different, like, colors. So it's a similar concept of stuff decorating the hair, but very different and his own unique way of doing it. So this is the difference between, like, it's not like we just took their candy and stars and just shoved it in his hair, you know, because that would have been, you know, a form of art theft. Even though Tartcat, you might argue, like, doesn't own stuff in the hair. No, they don't. But it would be very clear that we stole specifically that element of their design. And thank you, Clara. I made it in like 5 hours. uh, um, I just tried to organize my thoughts because I knew I would get distracted and ramble. So, this was a big example that I could think of, was working on Comfy's model and looking at other like VTubers with stuff in their hair and just coming up with his own thing of that. So don't steal or like directly copy stuff from VTubers you like, because that's not really right. It's not great. It's just don't steal people's trademarks, you know? But it's okay to take a similar concept and make it your own. And like I said, if you're going based on certain historic events or cultures, please be very considerate in your portrayals. I'm talking so much, my throat is so dry because I'm so nervous. I'm already halfway through my water. This is a 32-ounce bottle. Alright, this is where we hit Step 3, stylize. Now, everyone has their own unique art styles, even if they have, Wiggles, welcome in. Hip hats. Hydrate and posture check. Okay, I'll sip again. Pika, because I just sipped and I'm still very thirsty. It's also very hot outside. What was that? I heard a thing, but I'm on the, I can't see. Did someone subscribe or something? I don't know. What happened? I can't see. I've got my chat on my phone because the PowerPoint's taking up my whole screen. I'm sorry. Welcome in, whoever followed. Thank you. I'm sorry. Step 3 is stylization. Everyone has their own unique style, and even have elements of their style. So, like, if you're like me, and art style consistency is not a thing, because it's very much not for me. My art is different from case to case. Shabanda, thank you for follow! Welcome in, welcome in. Everyone has their own unique style. But this is the third step where you take the bones and the bits that you've gotten together so far, and you actually sit down to start figuring out what your version or what your, like, design is gonna be. So this is where you have to figure out, not just the style that you want your model to be in, but also just the style of how you're gonna go about this. So, like I say here, like, this is when you sit down and actually start to design. You'll probably go through a handful of designs before you land on one that you really, really like, and you can make, like, dozens before you even find the one, you know? And that's perfectly okay, because designing and redesigning is all a part of making a character that you feel represents you, that you want, like, because it's you, it's the visualization of yourself on stream. So of course you want it to look great, but it's never going to be perfect right off the bat. That makes me nervous. Don't sit there. But this is also, like, it's okay to go through tons and tons of designs. My model, I've redone it like 15 times, and I'm still not completely satisfied with it. I'm probably going to tweak it a bit, but I'm very comfortable with where it's at the moment, and I'll just probably tweak little bits until I polish it and get where I want. And that's okay, because revision is one of the biggest pieces of art. Hush, Pika, no, hush. I already said it, you don't have to repeat it. I'm actually getting very close to satisfied. I think I've kind of figured out what direction I want to go. So that's a good thing. But during this stage, you also need to consider, and this is very, very important, when designing your model, a lot of people don't consider what art style it's going to be in. And that can be not a detrimental mistake, but it can definitely change things. So whether your model will be in 2D or 3D, that is something very important to consider, because there's a lot of, like, stylistic pieces of 2D design that just don't transfer over very well to 3D. Like, if you were gonna go with a squash and stretch, like, rubber hose style, cartoon stylized model, it would not translate very well to 3D. So if you're very dead set on having a 3D model, that is something very important to consider, you know? And that's not to say it's impossible, but it's definitely going to be a lot harder to do. And that is something to consider when you're making your first model. But another thing to consider is that different styles have different elements that do and don't work together. So anime has a lot of very specific stylized elements that don't always work together very well with, like, a cartoon style, and it certainly wouldn't work together very well with a rubber hose style. And another thing is, like, the same with cartoons. Probably Jimmy Meow. I don't mind. I'll go on forever, man. But like I said, different styles have different elements that do and don't work. So if you're drawing your character yourself, be sure to consider what art style you kind of lean towards. My art style kind of falls in between cartoon and anime, so I have a little bit of elements of both that mix together very well. But that also means that there are a few elements of both cartoon and anime style that don't work well in my art style. And this is something very important to consider, and I will scream it from the rooftops. I will scream it and shake every single person in the VTuber community, okay? Because anime style, like an anime-esque style... Yeah, that's exactly what it is, Spade. It's the squash and stretch. Think like Spinel, Bendy and the Ink Machine, Cuphead, stuff like that. That's rubber hose style. And it's called that because the limbs of the characters look like rubber hoses. But I will scream this from the rooftop. Anime is basically, like, the anime art style is considered the default of the VTuber community. So 9 times out of 10, most VTubers that you see are going to have a very anime style. And, like, the best way I can describe it or make you think about it is, like, you know VTubers who have other VTubers come into their streams for, like, a collab to talk? Like, Takahata is one of them. If you don't know, Takahata's a VTuber who has, like, a bar-like thing, and he has a bunch of other VTubers come in, and he talks and asks them questions, and they hang out. And, Porcelain Maid does the same thing. Joel, Porcelain Maid. He also has a bunch of other VTubers come in and hang out. And most of those VTubers who come into his streams, both of their streams, although they have different art styles than them, they're still very anime, and just looking at the characters at a brief glance, you wouldn't think that they don't, like belong in the same universe. Like, if you just take a cursory glance at their screens, you'd be like, yeah, those are all anime characters. This looks like an anime screenshot, you know? So VTubing, very much has, like, an anime oversaturation, and there's nothing wrong with that. People like the style for a reason. It's very functional. It's very good. And VTubing did actually start, like, in Japan, so it makes sense that, like, anime is kind of the default, you know? But that is to say, that doesn't mean that you can't have unique art styles for your models, and that is something to keep in mind. So, unique styled VTubers are my favorite thing in the world, and I wish it was a lot easier to find them, and that there were a lot more, like, big name, unique style VTubers. And I'm actually going to show you a few of them. Okay, there we go. So here's some examples of them. First up, this is actually an artist that I really like. Their name is Star also. Star Heavenly, who is debuting a 3D version of his model soon, actually. Star Heavenly has a very unique art style. It's got elements of cartoon and anime in there. As you can see, it's got, like, the arcade style, like, bits in the hair. I love Star Heavenly's art style, and I love his model so much. It's very cute, very him, and just very unique. Looking at that, like, it's got its own vibe going on about it, and that's just so fun to see. Another example is Bell Beeps. I think Bell Beeps is live now, but I'm not entirely sure. Bell Beeps is also an artist, and you can see Bell Beeps down here. They've changed their model a couple times. Their thing is that they're like a gummy bear dragon, or a gummy bear worm with a Y. And her model's so cute. I love her model so much. Her art style is amazing, and I love her model and how bouncy it is. And just unique styled VTubers like this are just a delight to see. And as you can see, like, in the eyes and in the face, there is very much, hydrate. Okay, I'll take another sip. Sorry if you hear, like, weird squeaking noises. Yeah, it's possible. I took this screenshot from Bell Beep's stream literally, like, today. Like, this is just from, like, an hour ago. So this is Bell Beep's, and as you can see, their style is also very unique. There's elements of anime in both of their art styles, but it's very cute. And this next VTuber, I love their model so much. I love Bug's model so much. It's so stinking cute. Big Nose Bug. Big Nose Bug is a huge, like, proper example of a unique art style. So like I said, even though anime is kind of the default for VTubers, this style that Bug has is so cute. It's very reminiscent of, like, early cartoons, maybe a little bit of, like, Muppets in there, but it's just very much that bright and colorful, like, cartoony, silly look. And I love it. It's rigged so smoothly. It's drawn by Bug herself. She has a few different versions, like one where her model's sitting down. It's just so stinking cute, and I love it. I love it so much. You're gonna spend your entire high school years of college? Oh, that's sweet. I would love a plushie of me. But these are, like, 3 VTubers who, they're all artists, which you'll note, which is why they can make this unique style. I didn't put them on here, but another VTuber that I follow online, Ray Sparks, R-A-E, Ray Sparks, they actually have commissions open, and they have a really cute, like, black and white, unique style VTuber model. There's tons of unique VTuber models you can find out there. That's why I'm so worried about opening live 2D commissions, is because I don't have a very anime style, and I can't rig very anime models, although I've never tried. I prefer, like, unique styled models like this. They're just so fun, and they just have so much life in them. And so, that is something to consider with your model is, are you going to have an anime style, or are you going to have something unique and kind of different? And that will also have, like, a huge impact on your design. Because, like, Bug here, like, you couldn't, it would be very weird to try and turn some of the elements of Bug, like, into an anime style. Not impossible, but it would be a challenge. And that is something to consider is the art style when making your model. It's like designing a character, like, the style is essential. Now we are on to, wow, we're, like, blazing through this way faster than I thought we would. Now we're on to step 4, functionality. I say this tentatively, very, very tentatively, and I was talking to Clara about this before as well. Functionality is something that is often forgotten in character designs, but it is something that can help you, like, polish your character design, or it can be a detriment to your character design depending on what you're going to do. So, as fun as neat accessories and stylized clothing can be, like, functionality is very, very, very much forgotten in anime. And I love it. I love anime so dearly, but, like, functionality is the thing. um, so it's fine to have some things in your design simply because you like them and want to include them. That's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But also make sure to consider functionality and things that would be important and functional for your character. So this can help you figure out some additional things for your model that you might not have considered before, but it can also help you realize, like, if your model's looking too cluttered so far in your concepts, then it might help you realize what you can trim away. So it can help you add some things, and it can also help you trim the fat, you know? So, like, if they're a space-themed character, they may need a spacesuit helmet to help them breathe, and that's something you might not consider. I did actually have that as a concept for my character, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So try to avoid things like, think about, like, the best example I can give of non-functionality is, like, you know that meme about in video games where, like, a male character gets this armor and it's like a full suit of, like, knight's armor, but a female character puts it on and it's just like a bikini, like a chainmail bikini. That's important to think about, because aesthetic, although it is important for your character, functionality also makes it blend better and keep your design grounded. So that is something to consider. Like, you don't want your character to be like the girl in a chainmail bikini. Trust me. Uh, dress made out of 52 belts and a few pieces of string are fine. Yeah. But that's something to consider. A lot of people don't think about that. And, like, this is another example of it. On Comfy's model, he has this little cuff on his tail with a bell attached to it. And part of that is because, while I was designing it, the model felt a little plain, and I felt like that little cuff added just, like, a touch of something. And I think Comfy mentioned something on the tail, too. People demand skimpiness. Yeah, exactly. Put your giant, like, male, orc in a chainmail bikini. The people demand it. I want more orcs in bikinis, okay? I want orcs in chainmail bikinis. I need it for reasons. But for Comfy, like, that little tail cuff with the bell doesn't really serve a purpose. And if you think about it, in, like, actuality, if his tail, like, swayed every time his tail moved, because cat tails, like, flick back and forth a lot, it would be so annoying. It would be so annoying. It would be so loud and jingly and annoying. But I put it there because it helped fill out the design, and aesthetically, it was very pleasing. So it's okay to ignore functionality and some minor things like that, but it's also, like, that can also get you in trouble if you, like, ignore functionality too much. So it's all about self-determination, what you think is, like, fine and what isn't. You have to consider that. Just things to keep in mind while you're working on it. And here's some examples of functionality in my characters and my model. So this is my character, Zai. The rough story for him is that he is a human, mercenary, and he has a lot of, like, mechanical augmentations because he actually was, like, abducted and kind of forced into an underground alien fight ring. It's why he has a mechanical arm. He also has a mechanical leg. He's riddled with scars, but you see this little collar around his neck, and you might not be able to see it. It might be too small on the stream. But this little collar on his neck with the little purple pockets on the side actually has a function. He can't take that off ever. Like, it's sealed to his neck because those two little purple bubbles actually have like holes into his throat, and they change any atmosphere of any planet into breathable oxygen for him. So it's not just there because I like chokers, it's there for functionality. And same with this little like augment in his head that was actually used to control him when he was in like the underground arena. It's basically like a built-in shock collar. So although it's not functional anymore, originally it did have functionality in his design. Yeah, Wiggles. It's basically like melded with his skin at this point. That just basically like, it's to get my attention if I forget to look at chat for a bit. Jimmy Meow, that's what it is. But that's kind of what that's for. And that's like my favorite like example of functionality in a design, because like even though it may not look the prettiest, there's a reason it's there. Like it has a purpose to this character. And same with this little like thing right here. It may look like just something that I put on both of those. That's the button that turns this into this, you know? It keeps him warm while he's out in the cold expanse of space. So there is a bit of functionality to these designs. Ava, how did you find out about that? How did you find out about that? I haven't used that in so long, I forgot DD made that. And this is another example on my current model here, actually. This is actually taken from, like, my model's ref sheet. These shoes right here, there's a reason for that. So, there's a reason I went with straps instead of strings, and that's because, like, these straps tighten it automatically to the feet. Think, like, Back to the Future style, but that's for, like, getting, your spacesuit on in a quick rush. These little, like, spheres here have two purposes, actually. And these are just design ideas I've had forever that I've wanted to incorporate because I can. So these are weighted spheres, and basically they keep me from, like, bouncing like a moon man all over the place. So they keep me weighted down whatever the planet's gravity. They automatically adjust their weight and keep me, like, sealed to the ground. But they also slide off the side and basically become like skates. But I haven't drawn that yet, so don't worry about it. But there is functionality in them. And that not only that, like, the shoes themselves also have functionality. They're to help me traverse planets. So I have also these little rings that, like, represent levitation. They're there for a reason. So this is, like, I have to, like, since I'm a very space-themed character, and the basic idea is that I'm running from planet to planet and checking out all this stuff, I have to find a way to traverse those planets in different gravity and things. So that's when functionality, like, comes into play. Me, Jimmy Bear, me. So functionality is very much something to consider. It can help you come up with elements of design, or trim away stuff that you don't really need. Now, as for step 5, we are on to marketing. So, one of the most important things about a VTuber is how recognizable they are. And this is why I was hesitant to call it marketing. I couldn't think of another word that would better explain this. But that's what we're here for. Marketing. We're here for marketing. So, one of the most important things about a VTuber is the recognizability. Like I said, as a VTuber, you want to kind of stand out in a crowd and get people's attention. That is very much the goal as, like, being a VTuber. You want people to be like, oh, they look really cool, let me go check them out, you know? You want to stand out in a crowd, but you also want, like, people to be able to recognize your model in all kinds of forms. And the way I say that is that, like, it's, a good example of this, it's called, the silhouette thing. I didn't put this in here because I forgot to put it in here. I was gonna put in an image of silhouettes. That is very much a thing, is silhouettes. So, what I mean about the silhouette theory is that, if you were to line up, like, Mickey Mouse and Pika- hold on, oh my goodness. Okay, we'll do a pronoun check. Everybody, we've got a lot of new people here, we've got a lot of old people here, so to kind of introduce yourselves, everybody tell me your pronouns. Tell me your pronouns, I want to know. I want to know. I'm trying to give a lecture. Quit distracting me. Professor Star is having a time right now. I'm frazzled. And if you're curious about my pronouns, I go by they them. Uh, yeah. Look at all the good pronouns. Mochi, she, they, he, they, he, him, hers. Hell yeah. All these good pronouns. I've tricked you. I've tricked you all. I'm a fae, and all of your pronouns are mine now. You have no more pronouns. You can find life essence in here. You can, Cozy. The life essence is the wisdom I'm imparting upon you. If you have here, Cozy, I'll give you your life essence in the form of Star Spice wisdom. If you're in a very crowded public place and you have to like toot, subtly spread your butt cheeks and it won't make a sound. You just like work your hands behind you and just spread your cheeks. Not that I've ever done that. So silly. Assume the position. Oh my god. Spread your cheeks like butter, baby. I'm tickling myself paint, guys. I can't. This is going way too fast. I expected to get far more distracted than I did, and it's only been like an hour. Oh no. That's your 10 minutes off. Okay, Hokozy, have a good work. Have a good work. I hope the rest of your day is very chill. I'm just thinking about like all these people spreading their butt cheeks in public now. People are like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Stop. That's weird. My stomach. I can't. Anyway. So, spread butts for Harambe. No. Oh man. You ready to hear all my other godly wisdom in your ear holes? Well, open your ears, hold up wide. I'll pour it all in, like eardrops. I'll start selling eardrops, like labeled stars wisdom. So, like I was talking about before, Pika so rudely interrupted me. There's a thing called like silhouette theory. Not so much a theory, honestly, as just like a thing. So if you were to line up like Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny, and like a few other very recognizable characters and completely black out the characters so that only their silhouettes are showing, you would be able to recognize their silhouette. This is also a very common thing that VTubers do when debuting a new model. In fact, Comfy did this. I think Clara did it too, where they just kind of showed the silhouette of the model, but they slowly revealed pieces of it. And so the thing about that is that kind of makes the model recognizable with the silhouette. So there's probably a handful of VTuber models that you would see the silhouette and be like, I can't tell if it's this one or that one. But if you have a pretty strong character design, then you should be able to have a unique silhouette that people can, for the most part, recognize just by like the silhouette alone. My pronouns are they, them, Jimmy Biao, thank you. But a lot of another example of this is like a lot of VTuber communities like to make memes and such. And one of the most common ways of doing this that a lot of VTubers do, I'm very guilty of doing this because I do this a lot, is putting those VTubers' hair on things. I actually made Comfy and Cozy both like just transparent versions of just their hair so that people in their community can make memes with their hair. So they could just stick their hair on images and like add a funny title, and that's how it does. So the reason I bring this up is because most models are chest up. So even if they have a fully rigged model with like the legs and the feet and like tails and stuff, more often than not, you're only going to see like just the chest up on a VTuber model. And so, although you can like put important elements of your model like in the legs, your main focus specifically for VTuber models, not for other characters, but specifically for VTubers, is you want to put more focus on their face. You want the attention to be drawn to their face and their hair and all the features from the chest up. So that can come in the form of jewelry, it can come in the form of like a birthmark, a scar like my model has. Like here at the bottom I have written, an example is my model has stars in the hair. Although the stars are optional, they're not always there. I do have stardust in my hair. I have a scar on one side and colored horns. So that means that if you were to put my horns on things, they'd be relatively recognizable. Um, Glasses can also be a good trademark, Sharkspade, but that also depends on like how you go about the glasses. So typically a lot of VTubers and a lot of people wear glasses, so glasses are often just kind of like seen as like just a piece of the person. So if you want glasses to stand out, you'll have to do a bit something interesting. So like you could add jewels on the side, give them unique shapes, unique colors. You'd have to play around with the glasses if you want it to be a recognizable trait of your character. So like, for example, if I were to give my character glasses, even though I don't wear glasses, um, um, so, a lot of glasses, sorry, I'm getting distracted. So there's a lot of glasses. I don't wear glasses in real life. I don't. I actually have 20/20 vision. I'm really good. But I do have a pair of red and blue 3D glasses, like really nice 3D glasses my brother gave me. So I considered giving my model 3D glasses, and that might be a recognizable like glasses trait. But if you wanted to have just regular like vision glasses be a recognizable trait on your model, your best bet is to probably find a unique shape or a interesting charm to put on there. So like, if you wanted, you could have like a charm hanging off one side, and that might be interesting. Or you can give your glasses like different shapes, like so the right eye could be shaped like a heart, the left eye could be shaped like a triangle. You could get really fun with it and play around with glasses shapes if you want that to be a very recognizable trait of your model. Same goes with hair and jewelry. As you can see, my model has dangly sparkle-shaped earrings. That is very much a part of my model. My rigged 2D model is actually going to have a spiked collar, because I love spiked jewelry like that, and a planet-shaped necklace. Clothes is very interesting, and that's very unique. That kind of comes down from person to person, because everybody draws clothes very differently. Glasses, that would be cute actually, Pika. If you just had like a couple of bubbles that always floated in front of your face and acted as glass, that would be so cute. That's a really cute idea. Oh man. Clothes is very different. So that is also a thing, is that you can have marketable clothing. A prime example is Punkalope with her newest model has a, what's called a sports jacket. What's it called? I've forgotten what it's called. Letterman jacket, a Letterman jacket. She has a Letterman jacket that's unique to her brand, and she's actually selling it as merch. So that, like, so clothing, especially like the shirts and jackets, is also very much a part of a model's brand, especially considering that they only see the chest up. Prime example is that Comfy, his hoodie's very recognizable. It's very unique, it's very different than most other, like, regular hoodies, and although you can't see his hands, it's kind of like a gloved sleeve, and it's got a paw pad on it. But that is very much a thing, is that the shirt, like the pants, don't matter as much, because like I said, people are only going to see like the chest up. But the clothes is also very important for marketing. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's not just the face, it's also the like upper outfit. I drank so much water, and now I got little bubbles, burps coming up. I'm sorry. Spade, so what if someone wanted to put mini sharks or fishes on the side of the glasses? That would be cute. That would be really, really cute. What I could recommend for that is like a little chain. Like, some people wear, glasses bands, you know, that keep, like, that wrap around their neck. If you wanted to, you could just have them dangling off to one side, or you could have them as like a little glasses chain that keeps around your neck. There's a lot of things you could do with that. And if you wanted to, you could get a little silly with it and have very, like, kind of round, fish-shaped glasses. That would be really cute, actually. There's a lot of things you could do with that. You could even have them shaped like water and stuff. But that is something to think about, is noticeable features. Because those noticeable features will be what people recognize you by, and then, like, put you on memes and draw you by, and the like. So, hold on a second. I'm actually gonna take another quick... I'm gonna take a big drink. My throat is very dry. Give me a second. All my cords are getting tangled. I need to get my bearings. Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. Alright, there we go. I got all my not my cards, my wire. I'm dying! I'm flubbing everything. But that's what I mean by marketing. It's not so much like marketing yourself, but it's making recognizable things. That way, if people were just to see you, or just to see something that you typically have recognizable on your model, I'm hydrating again, that they would know that that's where it came from. So, like, if you were to put the stars in the hair, or the horns on something, or a scar, you'd probably recognize it as my model, you know? And another thing, like I said, it's outfits, clothing, visuals, all of that. So this also comes along with the concepts. So here are a couple of outfit sheets I did of Comfy and Feather of Fern, and this was to help them kind of figure it out. So Fern already kind of knew what she wanted outfit-wise and, like, jewelry-wise, but I still had a couple of alternate versions, and this can help you. This can help you figure out your marketing. My recommendation is to make a single, like, pose and color it, and then copy and paste it a bunch of times, and just practice and draw different outfits on it. Yeah. And this is actually what I did with this. This is an OC of mine, Dusk. Her name is Dusk. And so I actually did that too, as I wanted, like, hair over one eye, kind of giving, like, flowy hair, Fluttershy vibes. And she has, like, a bat hoodie. So, like, this hood and her hair make her very recognizable from the waist up. And so with Fern, I tried to do that a lot too, is I just played a lot with the outfit to just see if we can make it a bit more recognizable from, like, the waist up. Because Fern already had, like, her jewelry in mind, like I said, so this was just kind of figuring out and experimenting with the outfits, even though she had a pretty solid one set already. And this was just when I was just making everything. Just everything completely. So I made, like, 4 pages of the... Oh, I could go back. What? Okay. Fidgeted. No, Pika, this is after your vampire OC. Chicken nuggets are really good, Jimmy Biao. So as you can see for Comfy, I have this page. This is actually one of 4 of these pages that I did for Comfy, and it has 12 designs each. So for Comfy, I made, like, a total, like, including a few polished designs, I made, like, 50 plus designs for Comfy. So he actually went through all of the design pages and picked out the elements of, like, the outfits that he really, really liked. So, like, for this one, he really liked the pop hat glove hands. I don't think this actually has any of the other ones on there, but this is just an example. So this can help you figure out, like, elements and recognizable pieces of your design, as if you just sit there and, like, just crank out outfit after outfit. So once you figure out your hair situation, this is what I would recommend, is just hammering out a bunch of different outfits, and then if you want, you have pages upon pages of alternate outfits for your model for the future. But it helps you figure out something very recognizable, and helps you, like, develop or, like, kind of corner the market and what you want your model to represent and look like. It helps you polish up your design a bit more and figure out the specifics. But for her, it's like the blueberries and all that. And so that's just what I mean by marketing. It's getting your stuff together to market yourself. And this is where we talk about step 6, eye candy, aka, like I said, the original title, my eyes, they burn! So I am so passionate about this, okay? I used to be so guilty of this. The biggest pet peeve is too much saturation. So if you don't know what saturation is, it's basically like, how do I explain it? You have pastels, excuse me, you have pastels, you have dark colors, and you have saturated colors. Yeah, it could Spade. Like I said, for Comfy, he actually, like, oh, did it freeze? I had, like, 4 sheets of these, and he went through each of those sheets and kind of picked out the bits that he really liked about each of them. I should have put all 4 in here, but I didn't. So, if you just, like, that could be a thing that's, like, very helpful. If you sit there and hammer out, like, 2 or 3 pages of just outfit designs, and then go through and be like, okay, I really liked having, like, this style hoodie, but I liked the way that these sleeves looked more. And then you can just kind of combine them and see how well it flows. So, playing around with different outfits and then picking and choosing your favorite elements of those outfits can help you figure out a very marketable and recognizable look. Could have emo Comfy, that's right. It's still my favorite. I love it so much. But back to this, what I mean when I say saturated colors is so, like, you see how, like, this isn't a pastel yellow in my hair. This is a very saturated yellow. These are very pastel colors here. The yellow's also very saturated here. This is also very saturated, although a bit lighter. So saturation, one thing that I notice is very common in more inexperienced artists, and I used to do this a lot myself, is just going to a color wheel and picking the top right version of a color. So, like, if I went to a color wheel and picked red, and I was kind of an amateur artist, I'd probably pick this bright red right here. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to have saturated colors, but a very big problem that a lot of younger or more inexperienced artists do is too many saturated colors. If your colors are all just like bright neon colors, that causes eye strain, and it can make your model very hard to look at. Very, very hard to look at. So my big recommendation is to experiment a lot with colors, and just things to think about. And one of them, actually, I have to give credit to Clara, because I did not consider for my model, because I forget. So a model's colors are just as important as the design elements and features. So, like, my outfit is just as important as my colors. They're what help make me recognizable, but they're also what makes my art appealing. I don't like to brag, but a lot of people tell me that they really like the way I color stuff, and they really like my color balance on outfits and designs. That's because I used to be terrible at saturation. I used to do a ton of just overly saturated colors, and I took, not so much a class, but I spent an entire summer with, like, a handful of drawings, coloring them this way and that way, and watching videos about color balance. I couldn't tell you a damn thing from those videos, but I very much did a lot of color studies. I will never brag, Pika. I hate it. Like, I like being complimented, even though I'm terrible at it, and as much as I joke about tooting my own horn, I hate to feel like I'm bragging. It just feels too boastful. But color is important. Color is very important. So here's some things to think about when working on the colors for your model. Dominant colors. So the way I say this is my model doesn't specifically have a dominant color, but another prime example, Comfy Cat Boy. His dominant color is purple. Cozy Cat Girl, her dominant color is pink. Clara's dominant color, despite wearing a blue outfit, is actually the blonde in her hair. So, Mochi. So the blonde in her hair, actually, because her hair is so long and is braided over her shoulders, that makes the primary color that you see on Clara's model yellow. And so, even though her outfit is kind of more blue schemed or more blue centric with, like, a dark cami, Clara's main color is in fact yellow. And that's why I put her as yellow on my color wheel. My model, I don't like having a central color. I like having a mix, which is why my horns are like 4 colors with a gradient together. Pika, how dare you? But yes, my commissions are open. I can make you outfit sheets. You can commission me to design you a VTuber. I will work with you and talk you through the process every step of the way. I'll actually give you a discount if you let me design your VTuber. I want to design VTubers, please. I love them so much. Yeah. Um, it does fit well. But Clara has like a very soft color. Um, and it's a very like soft yellow, which goes very well with her saturated like darker ears and tail. It goes very, very well. It says before you decide your spoilers, it's death. Yes, death. Blood for the blood god, I should say. But that is something to consider. So like I said at the very beginning, when you make an aesthetic board, that typically comes with a lot of colors, and you'll typically find a very like dominant color that you really like. That's what a lot of VTubers do. Like I said, I like a mix. I don't have a main dominant color. My favorite color is the color of my eyes. It's a kind of tealish color, a minty teal green. But I kind of split that into two, and I gave my hair blue and yellow because I felt like it balanced out that green eye look very well. And so that's something you can play around with to figure out if you want a dominant color. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. You can find your own unique color balance. Warm and cool colors. A lot of people don't know what that means. So, for example, warm colors is warm as in red. So stuff that's closer to red like yellow, orange, red, and pink. Those are considered warm colors. Reason being is because red is the color of heat. They're very warm. They're very warm toned. It's like when you go and get makeup, specifically like what's it called? A foundation like picked for you. They'll actually check like the undertone of your skin and see if it's like warm or cool or whatever. And that is because colors are very important with balance. What if the hair is black but the ends fade a certain type of blue? I would say that they would kind of... It depends on the outfit. Because if you have a hair that's multicolored, then the outfit determines if there's a dominant color or not. But if you're talking about your model specifically, Spade, because you have that kind of blue and you have blue eyes, I would say you actually have two, like, co-dominant colors of blue and black. And you can't have you can have multiple dominant colors. It's basically just, like, the handful of colors that are what's most on your model. So in this case, the probably two most dominant colors on my model are blue and yellow. So you see I've got blue hair, I've got blue on my tail here, and I've got these blue like leg straps. But then I've got yellow hair, I've got yellow pockets all over my jacket, and yellow jewelry everywhere. So I do actually have two dominant colors. I have blue and yellow. Those are the dominant colors in this design. Even though there's not a ton of it, like Comfy's entire scheme is purple with highlights of other colors, it's just like the ones that are most prevalent throughout your design. Like I said, warm and cool colors, red, orange, and yellow, and pink are warm colors. The cool colors would be blue, green, and purple. And they're like on opposite sides of the color wheel, you know? And so that is something that a lot of people don't consider, is if you have a dominant, like, cool color. So, like, for you, Spade, a prime example, Spade's model is mostly covered in blue and black. And so, yeah, it's possible to have two colors as long as they don't clash. And that is the thing, is you can have multiple dominant colors as long as they go together well. So, like, you wouldn't think that, ooh, I didn't mean to do that. No, go back. Go back. Okay, so you wouldn't think that, yellow and blue go together well, because they're actually opposites on the color wheel. But as a matter of fact, that actually makes them complementary colors. So, like, a prime example is, like, green and purple are complementary colors, as weird as that sounds, and that's because they are opposites on the color wheel. And it's like red and blue are also kind of complementary. There's, like, a bunch of complementary colors that go well together. And so even though these are complementary colors, there is still a very high chance for yellow and blue to clash. So that's where, like, the shade of yellow and blue comes in. So I've got a very dark blue hair and a bit of a lighter, more saturated yellow. And that's just like, I played around a lot with like the saturation and the balance of those two colors specifically so that they wouldn't clash. So you can play around with the shades and saturation of two different colors to see what works together and what clashes. And that's how you would figure out how to have two dominant colors. Same with warm and cool colors. So like I said, Comfy's dominant color is purple, but he does have other colors in his outfit. He has that kind of... His shirt, you may not notice it. You may think it's just black, but Comfy's shirt is actually a very deep crimson, and that's to accentuate the bright red heart on the middle of his shirt. And that the reason I went with a red heart is not just because that's what he wanted, but also because that color offsets the cool tones of the rest of his model. He also has a bit of yellow and pink in his hair, and he just has highlights of warmer colors in his model to offset the dominant cool color that like covers it. Same with Cozy. Cozy has a lot of Zane, hello! Cozy has a lot of pink in her design, but she also includes a lot of white to offset that pink. She has dark leggings in the model that I made for her to also offset those bright colors. So warm and cool colors, if you have a lot of a cool color, try throwing a few small elements of warm colors in there, whether it be through jewelry, whether it be through like facial expressions. Like if you have a blue character and you want to add a little warmth in there, give them red eyes or give them pink eyes. Play around with it. There's nothing wrong with like recoloring a design until you find a balance that you like. But do try to find a balance. That is very important. Too many people lean too much one way or lean too much another and worry that the colors won't mix, but you don't know until you play around with it. In fact, if you wanted to like if Clara wanted to add a bit more cool colors to her design, since she's mostly like a warm yellow, she could probably stand to add like a color, like a cool color streak in her hair. Maybe not in like both sides, like she could add like a single streak in both of her braids, and that would offset the yellow. And although it isn't necessary, her design is very like polished and very nice and clean cut, it would also just kind of add a little something to her model, you know? Just a little wow, ooh, that then you would be able to recognize her by those blue streaks in her hair. And that's just stuff that you can do. And that's just an example. It's not like me saying Clara add blue streaks, you know. Head pets but blue, thank you. But that is something to think about. Is if you have, and Clara has a very small color palette, I should say. My model has a very big color palette. So does Comfy's. Comfy's has a huge color palette, you know? But there's nothing wrong with having a smaller color palette. Cozy has a smaller color palette, and Clara has a very, like, small color palette, which makes it very easy to draw her. Comfy's a bit harder to draw because he has a bigger color palette, and that is something to consider. Your color palette does also affect, like, how easy your model is to draw. The more colors you have, the more difficult it's going to be. And that's also part of the reason why I have two outfits for my model. I have a very simple version for people who want it, like, an easier version to draw. And then for people who don't mind something a bit more complicated, I have this. And that's perfectly fine. Make it as simple or as complicated as you want, but just also keep in mind that if you want a lot of fan art, then your best bet is likely to go a bit more towards the simple side, or to have an option between difficult and simple. And that's not just for color, that's for the whole design. So like I said, warm and cool colors, saturation balance, and this is where this image actually comes in. So this is actually something I learned in an official art class. So the white gauze around your Sona's hands won't stand out. It will. And so what you might actually do is, instead of making it like pure white, your best bet is to make it off-white. So you could make it just like have the tiniest tint of yellow, or I don't know, it depends on how you want your model to go. That you would have to play around with, Spade. And who says gauze have to be white, you know? They make colored gauze for casts. There's nothing wrong with having a colored gauze. So that's just something to play around with and consider. But yes, if you have a predominantly black and dark blue model, that white is going to stand out and look very out of place. So you might want to consider balancing your colors out a little bit more. I feel like I know this music artist. But saturation balance, this is actually something that I learned in class. And it wasn't, shockingly, it wasn't in a character design class. It was in a 2D design class. And my teacher told me about the grayscale test. So if you want to find a good balance of colors, this is actually graphic design, not 2D design. If you want to find a good balance of colors or see if all of your like colors are balanced, then you take your character and you turn them black and white. Now, luckily, in most art software, you can just change the hue and saturation and all that, and you just turn the saturation all the way down. So basically, the goal is to make sure that you have like the full scale of saturation. Like you have the full gradient scale. So you want to make sure you have light colors. So I have this, which is almost white, which is up here. Then you have like the darker parts, which is like about down here. And the pitch black space hands fits down here. So basically, you want to get this whole array of shades. No matter the color, no matter the saturation. Like, this is to test your saturation. Make sure you don't have too much lightness, too much darkness. It's okay to have pastel stuff, but you do want something to offset it. So I have a pastel jacket and a dark undertone. And in order to balance it out and get those darker colors in there, I gave like space stuff on my hands, as well as my eyes. They just fit a bit better. So that is very much important. If you ever want to see how balanced your character is saturation-wise, just take away the saturation and put them in grayscale. That is a good way to do it. And that's also why I have this little color wheel right here to show you saturation. So, like, this is, like, completely desaturated. And this is completely oversaturated and darkened, you know? There are two scales of saturation. No! Stop doing this! I didn't click you. I forget that the mouse wheel does that. No. So it's the full shading scale is what this is. And that is something to keep in mind. So if you want to balance your saturation a bit more, check the grayscale. And if you have too much up here or too much down here, you need to balance it out. And that is just true for like all things. Like I said, you can play with different colors and that also needs to be balanced, but the saturation is very much needed to be considered. So if these were dark blue, then I wouldn't have enough of this color saturation, and that would be a problem. And that's just something to consider. So if you want to like check your balance, please grayscale your characters and see if you have too much saturation or not enough. You want this full scale. Typically, in my drawing class in college, my professor told me that there are like 8 levels. Like, with a pencil that you could make, there were 8 levels of, like, shading and darkness. And blending and coloring and recoloring those can make them darker and kind of smooth them together, you know? And so we actually made a scale with, like, a typical set of drawing pencils exactly like this, lightest to darkest, until it was, like, pitch black. And, that's also, like, when it was brought up in my graphic design class, you want a balance. And once again, this is where you also consider elements of your design. So I have black fishnets here for like the light skin underneath, but because this space part down here is darker, you wouldn't be able to see that fishnet, so I made it a gradient of lightness once it gets darker, like down to the darker parts of the feet. And that's not something that typically realistically exists. They do have like gradient fishnets, that is a thing, but this isn't very common, especially on just one leg. This is just an aesthetic thing that I really liked and wanted to play with. But that does also help me with like the saturation gradient because then it balances it. You see? And that's just important. So this here, it's so helpful. I don't do it as much as I should, but if I'm making a very important character design, I do this. It's so helpful. It's so useful. Please, please. It will save you so much trouble. This one is actually props to Clara because, like I said, I always forget to check this and I don't think about it. Colorblind viewers. Far more people are colorblind than you think. And, like, colorblind accessibility is huge. So if you want to be able to reach out to a larger audience, you have to be considerate of what colors you use in your model and what might not be seen by some people. I actually found out that my mom's boyfriend is colorblind, and I didn't know that because I wrote him a note with a green colored pen I used to use for taking notes, and he couldn't read it because he's colorblind. And he didn't know what it said, and I felt so bad. color blindness is very much a thing. There are, I think Clara said there are websites, but there's lots of different places you can check to see what colors typically people can and can't see with different kinds of color blindness. Adobe has a free browser-based software. Oh, really? That's cool. What's the name of that software, Clara? Tell us. Give us the information, give us the resources. But this is something Clara said that kind of like stuck in my brain, and I was like, I should probably put that here. That's very helpful to think about. Okay. Um, but color blindness, that is something to consider. Now, when you're considering color blindness, that might affect the way that your model looks with that aesthetic, but just keep in mind, it's okay to keep the colors you have, but just keep in mind that some people might not be able to see it the same as most people do, and that is something to consider. Um, there's a blue and yellow color blindness. Your whole outfit is yellow. Yeah, there is. Um, that's when you give yourself alternate outfits, Mochi. But that is something very important to consider. All right, before we move on, any color questions? Any questions at all? You got a bit distracted. I have drank my entire thing of water, and I also gotta go potty real quick. So we are going to take a brief break, and when we come back, oh, thank you, Clara. Can I pin this? How do I pin this? I don't know how to pin this. How do? I'll figure that out later. But I'm going to take a small break. And when we come back, we will get to the final step. So this is the perfect time. I'll be right back, everyone. I'm back. I'm back, everyone. I'm back. I'm very excited. It's been 2 hours already. That's good. That's very good. Does Cozy stream at like 7 or 7:30? I don't know if we're gonna survive long enough. We'll see. We'll see. I'm back. Okay. So, I didn't plan to take so long, but like, we have one of those like ice and water dispensers on the door of my fridge, and for some reason the water dispenser was filling really slowly. I don't know why. Maybe I've had too much water. But now, did I add anything else, or was it just this? No, it was just that. So now we're on to the final step. Step 7, balance. So you notice I mentioned a lot that you want like a balance. You don't want too much of one thing or too much of another. Too much water per water. So at this point, you've probably like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know. We'll snatch that link later. Thank you, Clara. So balance is important. You've heard me say it a lot. Color balance is a huge thing, which is what that past point was like entirely about. That one was all about color. So at this point, you've probably like played with your concepts. You figured out a bit of the like clothing and the details you want, and a bit of like the noticeable features you want on your model, as well as the style. But this is when you need to look over at your model and kind of check over everything, make sure it's not too much or too little. Oh, dude, he came back to these cursed lands. I'm here to bring blight and pain. And spread butt cheeks. So at this point, this is the time to, like, step back from your work, take a look at it, and just be like, okay, what does it need? What is it missing? Or what do I need to chop off? And it's okay to have a complicated design, but keep in mind, it's very easy to teeter into too much. And, like, a prime example of what I consider to be too much is actually, I'm gonna get so much flack for this. I don't like Genshin or Honkai Star Rail designs. And before you say anything, before you get mad at me, that's not to say that the characters don't look fantastic, because they do. They are just the world's biggest pain in the ass to draw. And I say that entirely confidently. I have drawn a Genshin Impact character. It's a nightmare. Because their outfits are so ridiculous and out there, and they're so detailed, and they have all these little things, and it's the world's biggest pain in the butt. There's nothing wrong with that aesthetic, and when you just have like a single 3D model that has like a handful of movements, that's fine, it works. But once again, consider a lot of people, I know tons of artists who refuse to draw Genshin Impact. And that one commission I had where I had to draw a Genshin Impact character, I think I drew Xiao, that person told me, like, hey, do you do Genshin Impact characters? I know a lot of artists refuse to do them because they're so complicated. And I was like, I can, but I am going to have to charge you extra because those are very complex designs. And there's nothing wrong with a complex design, but it makes it very hard to draw, which makes your art like harder to recreate. So if fans want to draw your model, or if you want to commission an artist, it's going to be harder for fans to draw your model, and it's going to cost a bit more because your character is so complex. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with it if that's really the road you want to go down on, but be considerate of that before you do it. Like Sora, he wants me to make his model kind of Genshin or Honkai style adjacent, nothing too insanely detailed, and that's fine. You can do that. You can emulate that style without being over the top with details. But that is like a very common thing I see. Another good example is probably Monarch, the VTuber Monarch. If you wanted to make the gauze work for your model, what colors would work for it? At that point, if you want to keep the gauze, you might want to play around with the outfit and the shades of your outfit. If you really don't want the white to offset it too much, you might want to have like the shirt fade into a softer color or lighter color. So like my recommendation would be to have a gradient or have some kind of design that makes it go from dark at the top to light, not quite white, but a very pastel gray towards the sleeves, and that would make the white gauze less jarring on the hand. But that's something you'd have to play around with, Sharky. But like Monarch has a gorgeous model. It's a little complicated in the design though, so a lot of fans will simplify their fan art for it, and that's fine. Fans will find a way, but complicated designs make it a bit more difficult. Porcelain Maid has a very nice design. It's a lot of balance between detail and loose. A lot of the detail comes in the hair as well. If you have overly detailed hair, that will make it a bit harder to focus on the other aspects of your design. So as cool as funky hairstyles might be, you don't want too many points and you don't want too many hair strands. That's why anime style is so common, is because it has just enough like balance between like hair strands in the design, as well as shading to keep it simplified. But that is something to be aware of. Don't let your model teeter into too much. Too little can be fixed. Too much is hard to fix. Never New Well, welcome in. Yeah, so you can, if you have too little, you can always add stuff, but it is a lot harder to take away stuff once all is said and done. So this is your chance to look back and see what you can strip away that won't really detract from the design if you take it off. Like my model, you could probably take away the hair stars and it wouldn't take away from my model at all. My model would still be very recognizable. It would still have a good balance to it. In fact, I have another PNG tuber model that I actually really don't like because it's in a more detailed anime style and it doesn't look good with the hair stars, which is why the hair stars in my model are optional, is because depending on the art style, it can easily teeter over into too much. Which is why I made it optional. And that is the thing you can do. You can have two forms to your model. There are plenty of VTubers who, based on their story and like their theme, have two versions of their model. There's one VTuber I've seen who is like an eldritch horror, and she'll have this animated toggle, and she'll go from this cute, pretty goth VTuber to like a horrific tentacle like goo monster, and it's scary, and it's like, that's really cool. So if you have different elements that you want to incorporate, but they don't work all together rolled into one, then it's okay to have two versions. But just note that that's going to be double the work, double like the time. That's just something you're going to have to accept. But that is something to consider. You can have two versions. I actually talked to Wiggles about this before I redesigned their model. Yeah. I actually talked to Wiggles because Wiggles lore has their model disguised as a human, but they can only disguise so much. They have a more monstrous form as well, and that's something we're going to design and talk about, is having like multiple versions for your model. There's nothing wrong with that, you just have to do it right. Because you're basically taking one form and twisting and altering it into another. Another prime example of this is if you wanted to have like two versions of your model. Since Clara's in chat, and a lot of you guys are from Clara streams, and a lot of people in the community know Clara, I'm using her as an example a lot. Cozy's also another example of this. Hair. Cozy has her hair tied up into twin ponytails, and Clara has twin braids going over her shoulders. Except for Summer, for Clara's summer outfit, Clara actually did this. It's perfect. Clara has a summer outfit where instead of the braids over her shoulders, they are now pigtails that are pulled up, a lot like Cozy's. That's an excellent thing of like, that changes the dynamic completely. It absolutely changes the dynamic, because now that Clara doesn't have those braids over her shoulders kind of hiding most of the details of the clothes, then that means that she's now free to have a more detailed outfit if she wanted. So if she wanted to like stick with the pigtails, what the fuck? Oh, sorry everyone, sorry. I looked out my window. My desk is right next to a window that looks out over my backyard, and like my garden is right in sight, and I just saw water shooting up, and I'm like, what the hell? There's a sprinkler set in the middle of the garden. I didn't expect that. I was like, is it raining? What? Yes, Clara. Hair impacts the silhouette a ton. So with Clara having her hair pulled up into pigtails, that completely changes things, and Clara could do so much with her outfit if she wanted. Same with Cozy. I actually, on the 2D model that I made Cozy, I actually gave Cozy like 4 different hairstyles. She has a regular twin tails pulled up. She has long braids, not over her shoulder like Clara, but like Clara's braids. They go down a bit farther. I gave her space buns as well, which I love space buns. They're so cute. But it changes her silhouette and the complexity of her design completely. So that is something to consider. You can have alternate hairstyles and stuff. If you don't have hair... Oh, Ava. Accessories work too. Jewelry, accessories, headphones. That just... The different silhouette of your head kind of changes what you can do with the chest. Yes, Viper Cozy is also an example, Spade. Thank you. So those who don't know... Cozy, before her and Comfy kind of changed to be more like, not adult, they're not like 18 plus streamers, but they kind of moved a bit further from like a 12 and up stream, you know? They allowed themselves to swear a bit more, to play a bit more like adult themed games, just kind of loosen their reins a bit. But before that, Cozy had like Feral Cozy, which is what she called it, and had Viper, who she would use whenever she was having a more adult stream. And so it was basically a Viperfish model that she made because she really likes Viperfish. And that is a prime example of like, you can have alternate models, lots of VTubers do it, but each model has to be its own kind of design thing to keep in mind. So there's nothing wrong with having multiple models, but keep in mind what they're for, what they represent, and their purpose in your streams. So if you have multiple concepts you want to do, consider having multiple models, but just debate on if you're actually going to use them or if you're just going to make them for the sake of making them. Because you don't want to waste your time. I'm stretching. Oh my god. I stretched to my back cracked like 3 times. I'm taking a sip. Thank you for hat pats. I probably shouldn't place that on that rag, but I'm doing it. But that is something to keep in mind. And like I said about the Genshin characters, keep in mind, a more complex design is going to be harder for not just artists that you commission, but fan artists as well to draw your model. Part of the reason I found Comfy and Cozy and Clara so easy to draw is because they have a bit more simple designs. Although they can be a bit complex sometimes, for the most part, they're relatively simple to do. They have easy silhouettes and easy shapes to follow. And, shape theory is entirely a thing, but I hate thinking about that when I draw, so I just don't. But if you guys want to, we can talk about that after I finish this slide. If you want to know more about like shape theory and all that, ask at the end of it, and I'll chatter about that before drawing. But this is also a good idea, like I said, taking a step back after everything. It's the perfect time to sit back and see if your model's missing something, if it has too much. Just kind of take a look and see what you need to tweak and fix. And like I said, you're going to make a million different versions of your model before you find one that you're finally satisfied with. And something to note, it does not have to be perfect the first time. It doesn't. Okay, you're gonna think, oh, I gotta get this right. This is my one chance. No, it's not. It may be your first time, and you may spend a bit of money and some resources on this, but, I have, Ava, I'll tell you about that in a bit. But that it is not your only time making a model. Every single VTuber I have ever seen always has a re-debut. So they have that first model that they make that gets kind of, like, known and that kind of builds their brand, and then they redesign. Once again, Clara and Comfy, prime examples. Clara started off as Clara Slimeford, and she later, once she kind of figured out her footing in the VTuber world, she changed over to a dog girl, because she felt that just kind of suited her a bit more, and was a bit more of the direction she wanted to go in. And Comfy, he still kind of kept some base elements of his model, but wanted to rebrand it and have a more solid look and a bit more of a recognizable brand that built upon. So he actually, his first model was made in Vroid, And so he wanted a live 2D model, but in order to do that, he needed a more proper design, because as much as he loved the comfy pajamas, he wanted a bit more of a kind of, not realistic, I should say. He just wanted a different look. So I have rebranded several times. I really have. I've redesigned my model a million times, and that's fine. There is nothing wrong with realizing you've grown as a person, you've changed, and so your model will change with you. It may take some time to figure out what you want to change to. It may take some time to get the resources together. Thank you, Clara. I'm really proud of Comfy's design. I'm so glad people like it. But that is something that it can happen as many times as you want. This is just how to make the first VTuber model to find your footing. And this is how to figure out how you want your model to go when you redesign it later. So this is just to get you started and to kind of see how to build the building blocks for your Lego world, I should say. It's like the starting kit. Your first model is going to be like the starting kit. It's like the base set of just Lego bricks, and then when you rebrand, that's going to be like you getting the special Lego pack that you want, you know? It's just kind of how it works. You will eventually rebrand, even if you think you're gonna want some kind of change to your model, and you're gonna change your model at some point. And you may say, I'm never gonna do it. Okay. Come back to me in like a year and a half when you change models. And say that again. But this is just a good chance to look at it, take a step back, and realize if this is like ready for your first go ahead, or if you're like fine with the redesign. So taking a step back from your art is very important, and a lot of people don't think about that. Taking a step back can help loads. There are so many artists who will make stuff late at night and think it looks so good, and then wake up in the morning and be like, this looks like trash. Or they'll like work on it and think it looks like trash before going to sleep. They'll come back like an hour or two later and it looks great. Because sometimes when you're working on stuff like this, you'll get too in your head about it, and you will forget to take a step back and be like, collect yourself, and then come and see it with a fresh view. You don't want the character going on too much at the top or the bottom. This is also an important balance. I know I said that the upper level of your VTuber is the most important thing, so that's where you want to focus like your most designs. I shouldn't say skills. That's where you want to focus most on recognizing your model. That doesn't mean that you can't have like super cool stuff on the legs or a tail. Like, that is not what I'm saying. Pika, I will strangle you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's like, if you want recognize, like, branding and recognizability should be focused on the head, but you don't want too much on the head or on the legs. So most of the bulkiness of my model is actually in like the body. So it's in the middle, it's in the jacket, it's kind of balanced. The head is kind of puffy, but it's relatively small compared to the chest, and the legs are also very slim. But that is something to remember. You don't want like a million things going on up top and then nothing going on the bottom, and vice versa, you know? So make sure everything's balanced to the left, to the right, the colors, the details, as well as the top and bottom. That is just, you want equilibrium. And like, so imagine like a 4-sided scale. As crazy as that sounds, you want all of the scales to be perfectly balanced with one another. So, and nothing's perfect, like I said, but you want to get as close to perfectly balanced as you can get, because that just makes a more clear design, and makes things more appealing, and makes things easier to digest visually, and it just feels more rounded and satisfying. So balance is very important. And that's just something to think about. And like I said, it is okay to redesign later. This is nowhere near as many models as I've had, but I have redesigned my model so many times, okay? I showed you that sketch in the very beginning where the concept came from. This is like a 2D model that I rigged for it. This is a PNG tuber I made of it. Then I redesigned to this look, where I split the bone arms to both arms, and then I went back to this look and realized that that was a bit, like, this design was all too much. I did actually struggle with this design so much because it was just too much. There was too much going on. Far too much going on. And so I kind of simplified that and boiled it down to this, where there's still, like, a lot going on, but it's not an assault on the eyes. It's all relatively balanced, and you can kind of see what parts go where. Part of that comes from like the color block jacket and the color coding, but that just kind of comes with balance, you know? It is okay to redesign. I've done it a million times, and part of that has come with my like journey as a VTuber and a streamer and an entertainer. I started with this because this is kind of how I wanted, like this is how I wanted to dye and cut my hair, and this is how I wanted to look in real life, mixed with a few like fantasy elements, you see. And then I was like, you know, the problem with that haircut is that it looks like a curtain over the eyes. Um, yeah, if I talked about all my models, I could fill an entire stream. Absolutely. Um, and you can also see, like, things have changed. Back then, I had a bi pride flag on my model, and now it's a pan flag, you know? Things change, people change, and it's okay for your model to change with it. Like, this model, the hair looks very different, the style looks very different. Things change up here. You can see where I start to lean more in this world. You can see where I kind of shifted away from this. Like, you can see the evolution, and that's fine. So if you start off like this, it is perfectly okay to play around and find yourself until you end up with this. Whatever you're comfortable with. You know? Like, it will take time, and don't feel bad if you make a model and then, like, a few months down the line realize this doesn't really fit me. That's okay. Because you change as a person, your models are allowed to change too. And that's what too many people are worried about. So don't be afraid to change, don't be afraid to experiment, and just, if you're trying to rework one model to like get to where you want it, and it's just not clicking, maybe try starting from scratch. There's nothing wrong with starting over and trying to do it better this time, you know? That's called improvement. We have it for a reason, you know? So there's nothing wrong with that, just something to keep in mind. That is the end of it. The end of the presentation, I should say. Here are some final things to think about, things to remember. If you are unable to draw the model yourself, there's all sorts of resources and affordable art commissions you can reach out to. A lot of these are simple art lessons that I learned from drawing for 10 plus years. I have also gone to art school, like college, I should say. So I am still a student, not a master. All of this is purely based on my own experience and my own method when it comes to designing a character and a VTuber specifically. So, what I mean when I say there's resources, like, if you have trouble making it yourself, like I said, you can commission an artist, or you can learn how to draw if you want to. There are lessons online. There's pick crews available that can help you figure things out. And the reason I encourage pick crews so heavily is because they're made for fun by artists, first off, but then that also gives you a sort of visual reference to work with. Masters are the ones that are dead. If you still breathe and you're a student, that's good, Wiggles. I like that. But that is something very like to think about. Like Pit Crew, I'm a huge advocate for Pit Crew because Clara was talking about like references for commissions and stuff. It varies from artist to artist if you have like a visual representation of your model or not. You know. So some artists refuse to take commissions if you don't have a visual that they can work with. Some artists are fine with an aesthetic or an outfit board and a light description of the character. Some you can just give them text information and they can understand that. I am fine with all of it, personally. Because like I said, I love designing characters. And so typically when people give me text wall commissions, it means that I am their first step to having a visual for that character. But there are people out there who do specifically character designs. I am one of those people. You can commission me to design your character. I'll do it happily. I love designing characters. It's my favorite thing. But that is something to consider. Pick crews are available. There are doll, like, dress-up sites that give you a bit of a visual to work with. But to be a VTuber specifically, you have to have some kind of visual for yourself. You can't just have a text wall. But like I said, you gotta have some kind of visual for it. So you could, like, commission and all that. Because if you are drawing it yourself and designing it yourself, peer review is huge. You can't hear it, but I'm slamming my hand on my desk right now. Peer review is huge, okay? If you have a design and you're like, something doesn't feel quite right, send it to people. Yes. A color palette is so important. Don't just have a sketch or a line. That is such a pain. Take a moment. There are color palette building websites. Like, if you have, like, just a sketch from somebody, and you need colors, there are color palette building websites for free that you can use. It takes nothing to give you a color palette, you know? Yeah. So Spade actually gave me a little, like, what was it? Was it a gotcha character for your icon? Spade, I appreciate you having a visual. I'm sorry, this is my own personal thing. I hate gotcha. I hate gotcha life. I hate it so much. I hate gotcha life so much. It's great. It's a great doll maker. Don't get me wrong. I used to love playing with pit crews and doll makers when I was a kid, like like a teenager. Like, that's fine. If you're using that as like the best representation for like a character because you can't draw it yourself or like something like that, it's fine. The reason I hate Gacha Life is because so many people will take Gacha Life characters and poses and then post it in art channels of Discord servers and stuff as if they drew it themselves. Like, look what I made. You did not make that. You didn't. You may have decorated it and posed it, but you did not make that. That is not your art. That belongs to the people who made Gacha Life, and you better say as much. Say, look what I made on like, it's a pet peeve of mine. Like, to use for reference or like designing characters, it's fine. But with people using it saying that they're making art when they're really not, as well, don't even get me started. Oh my god, Clara, I'm going to reach out to you about this. You and I need to do an internet deep dive on Gacha Life videos on YouTube. It's insane. It's ridiculous. Oh my god, I could have a whole stream about that. Like, oh my god. And then, like, the crazy thing is, like, I've seen YouTube shorts where there are some very talented, like, people tweening Gacha Life and making pretty fluid animations with them, and it's like, imagine what you could do if you learned how to draw it yourself. I did, but I didn't want to call anyone specific out. Because we had a couple of people from Comfy's server who did Gacha Life stuff like that. I hate it. I hate it so much. Yeah, I know, Spade. That's why, like, when you sent it to me, I was like, oh, cool, this is what Gacha Life is meant to be for. Not the shit that happens with it. It's it's become the new kids' Wattpad, and it is insane. It's ridiculous. But if you're drawing it yourself, peer review. It's so important. If you're looking at it and you're like, something's off, but I can't tell what, then send it to your friends or send it in a Discord and ask for advice or what people think. I do this sometimes. I will send stuff to the goobs all the time, and I'll be like, what do you think? Does it look good? Does it look bad? Although the goobs are not very helpful because they say everything I draw looks good, and it's like, no, I need peer review. But it could be a huge help. In college, if you actually go to art school, like as a college student, one thing that you will have to do in every single art class is you will have to pin your work up on the board and let your classmates review it. So what we would do is we would pin it up on the wall, and we would go piece by piece and have give people the floor. The teacher would say their critiques, and then they would let the students say their critiques. And it actually, like, I loved it. Like, it made me nervous always, but, like, I loved it. Ugh. But having other people look at your design can let them see things you might miss. As a designer, it's easy to miss things because you're the one drawing it. So while it may make sense to you why you gave this character, like, 3 chains hanging down from, like, their wrist or whatever, other people who don't know the whole story behind your character might be like, this looks a bit weird, let's get rid of that, you know? So be open to that. Be open to helpful criticism. There is a difference between helpful criticism and then just being mean. There's a difference between wanted criticism and unwanted criticism. Unless someone specifically asks for it, do not just criticize their work, because that's just so rude. That's so fucking rude. I hate when people do that. Like, I didn't ask you for your opinion. I just, like, of what's wrong with this, I just wanted to post it. But if you send something to your friends to have them critique it, don't just bat away whatever they say. And I do this sometimes. I'm bad about it. I'll send stuff to the goobs and I'll be like, guys, what do you think of this? And they'll be like, it looks a little wonky. And then I'll be like, no, it doesn't. But then I'll sit there and I'll draw and I'll be like, it does look kind of wonky. I got a new follower who followed. What happened? I'm scared. No. I'll look in a moment. We're almost done. But yes, so if you do ask friends for their advice, don't just a guy follow. Thank you, guy. Like, you mean the guy from that Ryan Reynolds movie? Did Ryan Reynolds follow me? But don't just throw what they say out the window. Another reminder: these are just tips. This is not like the Bible for designing a VTuber model. No, it's not. It's just like my process and what I think and how I find it helpful. And what I think a lot of people don't think about when making their models. And lastly, and once again I mentioned, it's okay if it's perfect, not perfect out of the gate. You can redesign a model later. And lastly, my commissions are open. I'm more than happy to help you design your dream model. Not only that, if your money is limited, we can negotiate prices. Because I truly believe in available art commissions. Art is a luxury. It is not like... You can, like... It's complicated. So art is a basic human right. It is. Being creative and expressing yourself is a basic human right. But buying art is a luxury. You are not entitled to my work. I can reject your request for any reason, but I truly believe in availability for not just VTubers, but also people looking to commission art. So even though my prices are kind of bumped up now because it is my main source of income, I am willing to negotiate prices so that you can get your dream model and get started. So be sure to check out my commissions. And if you want to see more of my art style, I have a portfolio page that you can check out too. That links to all of my socials and everything. But yes, you can always commission me for design. There are a lot of artists that refuse to do design commissions. I love design commissions. That's my thing. I love it. Please commission me.